about this love. About this about this love. About this love. Love. How you guys doing today? You are tuning to About This Love. What's up to everybody out there? Say what's up to the peoples.
Say what's up or say hey.
Hey, whichever. Hello. Sayonara. Whichever.
Sayonara's goodbye.
I know,
it's konnichiwa. Oh gosh.
Konnichiwa.
Okay. No. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. That's a little bit different.
Yeah. As always, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. You can find our podcast anywhere where podcasts can be found, and try to engage us more on social media with the topics you would like us to hear. So let's get it cracking.
Wait, I just want to say something. You said with topics that you would like for us to hear. You mean topics that you would like for us to discuss?
Yeah, my bad.
Sorry, I'm not trying to go in on you.
They knew what I meant.
Nah, we ain't know. We was confused a little bit. So you try to do something different and you get knocked off of what you supposed to really be saying.
It's always your own people that'll bring you down.
Whatever, man. You be the main one. You be the bus driver.
Funny. It's funny because at work, it's a buddy of mine. He probably listen to it, but he's funny. The dude is a comedian. I always tell him, I say, dude, you should call him like, man, you should have been a comedian. When somebody say something that's throwing somebody in the bus, he's like, uh-oh, the bus driver coming. He was like, he gonna run you over and then put it in reverse and run you over again.
Oh my gosh.
No. I'm sorry. What he says is he gonna put the bus and drive and then throw you under it. Not like him, but whoever he's talking about.
I know what you mean.
So that was funny. He said the bus driver.
That's where I got the joke from. When I first met him, I think he threw me underneath the bus for something. And he was like, oh, Dale, Mr. Bus Driver.
Whatever, yo. I'm gonna have to ask him. I'm gonna have to ask him about that now, yo.
That was my first time meeting him, and that's cool. What he said. That's how
I'm gonna ask him
remember.
Tonight. Cool.
I mean, it's kind of late, so don't ask him tonight.
He's up.
Anyways, let's get into the topic, because you sitting here, we already like a few minutes in, and you sitting here playing games.
So, talking about not divorce, but coming from a family where parents have been divorced, right?
Is that what we wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I'm asking you, Charel.
I'm just messing with you, yeah. Yeah, so basically just like how can you sustain a long marriage when you've come from a divorced family? I think that this was such a good topic to touch on. I had come across it online and I thought it was a good topic to touch on because it's like if you hadn't seen a healthy marriage like anywhere in your lineage, it's kind of like, well, is there hope for a happy marriage for myself? And even if you're already married, sometimes the enemy could bring things back up into your mind of like, oh, well, my parents and their parents, like they all got divorced at, year 2 or after the second baby. And so that's bound to happen to me. And it's just like, no, that could be further from the truth. And there are ways that you can just ensure, I wouldn't say a happy marriage because I always like to say that happiness is not promised in the Bible. But if you listen to our last podcast episode, I did see in Deuteronomy where the husband has to be happy with his wife for 1 year or the first year of marriage, right, Dale?
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm so tickled by that. But no, but I always say that like happiness isn't promised in the Bible, but joy is. That's one of the fruits of the Spirit. And it's just kind of like, well, I can't really guarantee you a happy marriage. There's no like 5 things you can do to make sure you secure your, lock down that marriage. But there are some principles that we see laid out in the Bible where it just tells you how to dwell in relationship and dwell amongst your spouse.
Long suffering too.
Yeah, and suffer with your spouse and how to suffer with your spouse and still make it through. And I think that's the part, especially the suffering part. I'm glad you brought that up, Dale. But I think especially the suffering part is where it gets really difficult in marriages, especially in the beginning of marriages. So, Dale, like, what are your thoughts on this topic?
I was thinking about how we're different. Well, our parents in the situation, because I know your mom and dad was divorced, and my mom and dad, they were married, but they really wasn't together. My father was in and out of prison. So just kind of seeing that whole dynamic. I just like really what I do remember when I was a kid is just seeing my parents always fuss and fight and argue and just like very verbally abusive to each other and even at times physically abusive to each other. So growing up, I actually became the opposite of that. My wife, I should tell you, we argue, but I don't like to raise my voice or yell, scream, and shout. and she'll tell you I don't verbally abuse her like, yeah, well, you stupid B and blah blah, you ugly trick. I don't do that. I don't really like. It's interesting because like that's how I am even when I'm angry. Period. When I'm angry, usually I just try to be quiet. I think that growing up, seeing that from my parents actually like made me afraid. Because oftentimes what you realize is that people say things when they're angry that they probably mean, but they probably shouldn't say. But once you say things, you really can't take it back. So you've just stabbed the person, in the heart with an axe with your words. And then you realize as you begin to watch the relationship unfold as a kid and to adulthood, you just realize it's just how destructive it was. Sometimes people be like, well, yeah, they married for 25 years. And like, who cares if it's 25 years of hell or 25 years of death? And when I say death, just the principles from the scripture, where you kill people with your words, you do things that are destructive and it causes generational setbacks for your children. If God doesn't intervene, thank God, he's amazing that he intervened in my life and he put me before people who have good marriages and they're still a part of our life now. So I kind of went on a rabbit trail. I was saying it was divorce, but it wasn't divorce like legally. But like the reality of it was that it really was divorce, but it just never was divorce. You know what I'm saying, on paper. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a legal separation, or
no, it wasn't legal. It wasn't nothing. Was legal. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't.
Okay, well,
it wasn't talked about. They just didn't live together.
Okay. Oh, I get it. So they were legally married on paper, but they were separated like in everyday life. So they were just married but separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
No. I just asked you what was your like perspective on this topic, and so I mean I know it, but as far as the listeners are concerned, I just wanted you to kind of lay out like I guess your background and I guess just your thoughts on it, because what you started off by saying like your upbringing, and then you went into
someone divorced.
Yeah, you went into how they were divorced but not divorced, and then how God had intervened and brought people into your marriage.
Yeah. And you know what else I want to say, that now that I think about it, like growing up, I don't think I ever wanted to be married. Like it's weird saying that now because I am married and I have kids and I love being married and I love my kids. My daughter actually is just like her mother.
Hey, that's a good thing.
She's very comical. She's silly.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, growing up, because I was in that environment, with my parents, I didn't want to be married. For me, it wasn't that I didn't want to be married, but there was like a lot of arguing, a lot of like fussing and screaming and yelling, and I didn't want a part of that. Like my wife would tell you, because my friends, they laugh at me now. We used to be roommates, but they was like, they all used to fall asleep with the radio on. It would drive us crazy. And I remember one day one of them asked me, said, dude, like, why do you fall asleep with the radio? That is annoying. And I said, well, it came from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, my mom and dad used to always argue, and it would be so loud, I just became accustomed to falling asleep with the radio on to kind of drown out them arguing with the music. So that's how the music became my mental silence, was the music, in a way, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I've heard them say that before. They were like, man, does Dale still sleep with the music on? Because I don't know how he could have ever been married. I think, I'll tell you one thing, that was probably like my first mission.
Our first year of marriage?
That was my first mission in marriage, was to like, this what we not finna do. Like, we are not about to go to sleep. Like, there's not going to be trauma in this house. Like, this not what we doing. Because for me, I have to sleep in silence because I'll start dreaming about stuff.
Silence in the pitch black?
Yeah, I do, because I start dreaming about stuff. Like, I'll hear stuff. I used to sleep with the TV on. Well, you don't know this, but as a child, I used to sleep with the TV on.
You still do sleep with the TV on. It's about, I don't know about this.
Well, not on purpose, because okay, fine. I don't do it on purpose, but if I realize I've fallen asleep, then I'll be like, oh, no, I don't like I get up and I'm angry that I did it. Like, I'm mad at myself for doing it. But most times, I try not to sleep with the TV on, hearing somebody talking, because I'll start to dream about it, and them dreams be crazy.
I'm sorry, when you say you get angry with yourself, I just picture somebody slapping yourself like, I'm angry.
I don't know.
I said like you get angry with yourself and leave the TV on. It's a strong word, angry. Like,
I do be angry though. I'd be.
So you slap yourself?
No. And just for those of you listening, if you heard him actually slap himself, that is not an inserted sound. He actually slapped himself to just prove a point, I guess. But even though y'all couldn't see it. But no, I wouldn't slap myself. But, I just would be frustrated with myself because it just messes up like my sleep just to hear noises. I mean, our babies start crying and I jump up all quick, and I could have fallen asleep on the couch where I was watching TV again, falling asleep on the couch, and I hear like a little and I like get up and start running up the steps again.
False.
That is not false.
That's false. But continue on though. That's false. But continue on.
I mean, it may take me a minute, but I still
Charel,
hear it.
bye, Charel. Continue on.
Well, I hear the neighbors' babies too.
You must be hearing somebody being asleep, but you ain't hearing. You don't get up. Many times I done been in the room and I was sleeping.
Hey,
and
look. That's your duty.
She got up.
That's just your duty.
You ain't flinched, so I ain't trying to hear that.
Whatever. That's your duty. Shoot.
But you were saying you can't sleep with noise.
Well, yeah. I definitely, that was like my first mission. But no, for me, my situation was a little bit different. My parents, I felt like they were already separated. Like, I don't think their divorce happened until much later in my childhood. But for the majority of my childhood, like, they were already separated. I don't think I've ever seen them together. And they got married after I was born. So I guess that was a short marriage. But what you're saying is that you actually like lived with both your parents at one point. Like at the,
I mean, my dad, he was always in and out of the house. I mean, it was like the couple that break up and get back together. That's kind of how my childhood was for the most part. Like that became the norm for us. They would break up for 2-3 months, get back together, break up, and then he'd go to jail and get out and come back. I mean, that was a norm for us.
Okay. I didn't experience that either with my dad going to jail. But, what I'm saying is, like, my dad was, like, never in the house. Like, they co-parented. So I would go to his house, some weekends. And then most of the time I would just stay with my mom.
Even when he was home, he wasn't home. He ran the streets a lot.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, like, your father, like, came in the house like he had a key at some point. Yeah, my dad ain't never had a key. He came to like the front porch.
He's a stepdad, huh?
Oh, shut up! I didn't want to say that.
But you bring your parents that step.
You know what? Stop it.
Ain't nobody come as a step.
Look, if y'all don't know Kevin Hart, then just ignore the joke, because like I knew Dale was going to try to go there.
He said she turned my dad to the definition of a true stepdad.
Oh God, you love that joke. But no, so I never experienced that. But I will say, I feel like I've always had the desire to get married until I became like older and started to understand the whole dating game. That's when I felt like I lost the desire, or I didn't feel like I had hope. There was no hope of me getting married, because that's just kind of all I seen was just like you dating one person and, that started going sour. You date somebody else. So, people always interested in you. So you just, date whoever interested in you. And I felt like that was just like that was what I seen.
Did that come as a result of the divorce of your parents? And was that like the reality of your father or your mother?
Yeah, I felt like that was the reality of both my parents. Like I've always seen them in a relationship with someone. Like that's at least what I remember. Thinking back to my childhood and my upbringing. And so I'm saying that to say, like, I don't think I truly desired marriage again until like my 20s. Like I don't think I desired marriage
until you met me, huh?
No, it was before I met you. It had to be before I met you, because like the Lord had to do some work in my heart on that.
But that happened after you met me, right?
No, I just said before.
I'm joking.
I know you are. And I'm just like, why he not listening to me? But yeah. So I definitely know that you're joking about that. But no, so I didn't desire marriage I didn't think it was a reality for me, because it's like from what I've seen, like though my grandparents have been married my whole life and my mother's whole life, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the same here.
Yeah. My grandparents been married like for a long time, but because that wasn't in my immediate household, I had no reality of a relationship or a marital relationship.
You know what's interesting?
What?
I just thought about it now that I'm on the podcast talking to you about it. All of my uncles and aunts on my dad's side of the family are married, except for one. None of the uncles and aunts on my mom's side of the family are married. And I'm thinking, because I'm like, yeah, none of them are married. I'm sure they've been married, but I mean, I don't even remember them being married as a kid. I mean, I'm sure they were, but now that I think about it, I'm like, wow, you just don't realize how much the relationship lifestyle of your parents really affect you.
I get what you're saying. So because your grandparents
were married, they were married
until death.
Until my grandfather passed away in 2016. Yeah.
2016?
Yeah, 2016, yeah.
Oh yeah. Because I went with you to the funeral.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, like, wow, it's just wow. I didn't. It's funny how you don't realize things until you actually you start talking about things and it comes up. You're like, wow, none of my uncles and aunts on my mom's side of the family are married, and everybody on my dad's side of the family are married except for one of my uncles.
So, I mean, you're saying that, and I definitely hear you, because I feel like on my dad's side, I feel like all of my aunts at one point had been married, probably except for one. And then I think that they got a divorce. But you know what? I really didn't get into their dynamics to kind of understand the ins and outs, you know? My grandparents on my father's side were married till death.
Well, no, well, I guess I'm saying that because, like, but it's like you don't really think about it because, like, when you're young growing up, you think, oh yeah, that's so and so, but you don't realize till you get older, you're like, man, she been with my uncle since I was like a little kid, you know. So it's like they've been together for a long time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So that's why I said that. Like one of my uncles, that we supposed to go to Thanksgiving, they got married in their 40s. I didn't know that. So he told me, he was like, yeah, you got married in the 40s. I was like, I didn't know that. But again, I was a kid, so I mean, I probably didn't put anything. When you're young, you don't really put that stuff together.
Dang,
you know?
They got married in their 40s. So how old does that make you?
I could be wrong, but I believe that's what he told me. I could be wrong.
But Dale, how old does that make you? You trying to throw somebody's age underneath the bus?
I mean, he told me that.
Nah. I was trying to see how old you were.
It's funny because he said when he was a kid, his wife, brothers beat him up.
Oh, I heard that story. Hey, look, but y'all hear that he's not trying to admit to his age though. He threw me underneath the bus on the last podcast talking about something.
I'm 31. I mean, I ain't trying.
Yeah, I'm messing with you. Don't pay me no mind. So what were some things that like had given you hope that you could sustain a long marriage after seeing your parents kind of have that back and forth in marriage?
I mean, I don't think I did until I left home. For me, like when I left home from Carolina at the age of 17, 18, ended up going to Greenville, Kentucky in Job Corps. Then I went to Washington, D.C. in Job Corps. But I'm saying all that to paint a picture is that like during my years of Job Corps is when the Lord really began to draw me to himself and when I really began to draw to the Lord. So I was 17, 18 years old, growing close to the Lord. When I got a job at Amtrak, I was like 19 years old. I had just turned 20. I was a young kid, you know. So being around people in the Lord who were married and who I seen had a good relationship and seeing how they treated their wives and how the wives treated their husbands, I think that reality kind of made me want to get married. Because before then, I don't think I wanted to get married. I wasn't like someone who slept around. But I'm just saying I didn't want to be married.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. No, I definitely get what you're saying.
It's funny.
No, I was just laughing because I was just like, you know, it just seems to be like the Lord intercepted. I mean, kind of like you were saying earlier in the conversation, like the Lord interceded into your life.
Say intercepted. Yeah, I guess he did. Yeah, I guess he did. Yeah.
Sorry, is that like a football term?
I mean, this is just a term. But you know, I think about that because you know when an interception occurs in football, the other team catches the ball. But the team that throws the ball is supposed to catch it, so the other team kind of catches it. So it does line up with what you're saying. Yeah, intercept it.
So that's exactly what I'm thinking about. Like you could have been on one path, and then here come the Lord, and it's just like, no, you're nice and good and vulnerable. You're at this stage where I can really, you know,
mold you and shape.
I could.
How you see the world. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
That's what happened.
Exactly. And I feel like that is what happened. For me, I felt like I was a little bit older than you were. I wasn't 19 at the time. I felt like I was in my early 20s and I had already had my son, but I was to the place where I just couldn't leave it up to chance. And people even told me, like, what if marriage not for you? And I've said that on previous podcasts. I'll tell that to anyone. Like, people had discouraged me against marriage. But if I had not heard from the Lord on that, start to look at what it looks like to be a wife. You know, start to look into those things. If the Lord had not put that on my heart specifically, I don't think that I would believe that a happy, prosperous marriage was for me.
So what did the divorce of your parents do to you in a positive light? Like, what did it make you not want that you saw was negative?
Well, because they were separated like my whole life, the one thing that I did see with them dating other people, you know, and not to say that there was ones in my family who didn't believe that if they stayed together, things would be much smoother for them. I mean, I don't know that to be so because, you know, people get married just for the kids or just because of the finances. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out or that they're going to be happy. I mean, we see it today where there's couples who stay together because of the kids, but then they date in other places and they're miserable at home and the kids are catching it. You know, they're just catching it and getting the tail end of that. What I seen from my parents that I did not want was basically, I wanted to be available. Like I wanted to be emotionally available. And I say that because I felt like there was this, how can I put it?
Emotional void?
Well, emotional void, but there was this need for love. There's a song that actually. You
mean desire for love?
No, need. No, not desire. Need. Like it was almost as if they were with whoever they were with, because it was just like, I just don't want to be alone. I want to be loved.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't love that they actually needed, it was a person there. You know what I'm saying? It was a person there to go to functions with. It was a person there, I guess, to, do other things with, have activities with, your kids and my kids come together, or we both have kids. So now we're going to be together.
Yeah.
And so I think what that showed me was just that, well, I don't want to be with someone because I don't want to be lonely.
That's actually funny you say that, because before me and you got to start dating, I was single for like five, I think I want to say like 5 or 7 years. I'm saying that because like I actually enjoy being alone. I actually enjoy being alone. That's something that I never struggled with. But for me, I think that's why now I don't like to argue with people. Because to be honest, like my wife would tell you, I don't mind having like a debate with somebody as far as just like whatever dispute we have. I don't mind talking about it. But when it becomes people yelling and screaming and using profane language and kind of going bizarre, then I kind of just tend to like walk away, or just like, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with this. And also seeing my parents, observing their life of marriage. One of the things that I didn't like, and I even hate it now, like I hate when you say something to somebody and they're just like dismissive. They find an excuse or a reason to dismiss whatever you're saying. I hate that. It ticks me off. It really ticks me off. That's one thing I hate now, when I say something to somebody and they're dismissive. That's why, like, oftentimes when people talk to me, like sometimes we'll be going to a store, people trying to sell you stuff. And wife like, Dale, what are you talking to that person for? They just trying to sell something. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't want to be dismissive to them. So I just listened to him. Afterwards, like, nah, I'm not interested in what you, and whatever your somebody else said. And she'll get mad, like, what? You could just hold it from the get go. I said, I want my wife and my kids to feel like they're being heard. And I know sometimes I don't do a good job of it all the time, but for the most part, I want them to feel like, they're being heard, what they're saying to me is being heard. Oftentimes, my wife will tell you when we're talking, we have deep conversations that may have came from an argument. I'll take notes so that I can kind of revisit them later on and pray about it. So I think that's one of the things that have made me the way I am. Because sometimes people don't realize, like, seeing the things that transpire in your parents' relationships, whether it's marriage or with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a lot of that can either make you or break you. Like, it can make you a better person, or it can make you be the same person. And for me, it just made me a better person along with the principles that God has established in my heart through His Word and through the example that He's set before me with other people's lives. And secondly, then what I saw from my mom and my dad, the things I saw that I didn't like, and I kind of corrected that. Like my father was never really home when I was a kid. So now, because of that, I'm purposefully home with my kids and really playing with my kids and just spending a lot of time with my kids, because I didn't have that growing up.
I was actually going to ask you, because of what you've seen growing up, is that like what made you want to apply like the opposite in your marriage?
Yeah. Originally, that's what made me want to be alone. That's why I enjoyed being alone early on in my life, when you were brought up in a lot of chaos and just people always arguing and bickering and fighting. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people, they become accustomed to chaos.
It's funny because before you and I met, I felt like the Lord had brought me to a place where I was okay with being alone too. Not lonely, but alone. And I say not lonely because there was a lot of nights where I was just kind of like, yeah, people invited me out. What should I go and do? Like, Lord, should I stay home or should I go and hang out and just like fellowship or what have you? And then it was just kind of like, well, no, maybe I'll stay home or maybe I'll go out to the fellowship or what have you. But when I say I was perfectly fine with just being like me and my son and the Lord, and, I go to work, I go work out, I come back home. I felt that I was in a really good place. And I also felt that I was in a really good place to, be with someone as well, because I wasn't actively seeking somebody, I wasn't entertaining anybody. And so I got to the point where I was just like, you know what? If it's just like me and my son, if it's just us, Lord, I'm okay with that. Like, and I think that's when I knew the next relationship I get into, this is going to be it. And I hate not it,
but do you know why you got to that point? To be honest,
yes, I do know why I got to that point.
I was gonna say, because just based on what I was saying, like anytime you're dealing with people, it's difficult. People, they lie, they cheat, they play games, and after a while, you just get tired of that, yo. Like people say, well, I'm gonna just be gay. Okay, gay people still cheat and run games too. Like you know what I'm saying. So it's funny because like over the years before I met my wife, it was actually a few women that wanted to date me, but I just saw through the crap. I saw through the BS, and I was like, nah, I'm cool. When I met my wife, and it's funny because like it's kind of interesting that we're married, because like when I met her, I was so stern with her. Well, not stern,
Nah,
but I was more so direct. Like I knew what I
Yeah.
wanted. You know, I was like, look, this is what I want. I'm not with the games. I'm not with the BS. If you want to ride, let's ride. If you don't, leave me alone. I mean, I wasn't like that, but I'm just saying, like,
Nah, you were.
that's basically how my approach was. Like, I wasn't really for the games because everybody come along, they playing games. They want to. I mean, I ain't got time. I don't have time for all that. Even now, fresh in my 30s, like I'm to the point in my life where it's like I don't have time for games. My wife would tell you one of the things I always tell people. It's one thing I don't let people do, and that's waste my time. You will not waste my time. I'm sorry. That's something I can't get back. I'll let you waste my money before you waste my time. I can get the money back. My time I can't get back. You know, so I'm just like, I just don't let people waste my time. You know, and sometimes I know my wife kind of feel like I come off as kind of being shrewd, but I'm like, man, jokers would just eat up your time and all day, every day if you let them. Like, look, man, what's going on? What you want, man? I got so much going on right now. I just don't have the free time to let you just sit up and waste my time, man. So I think that's why when me and you got together, you know, when you started dating, that's why I was like, look, man, what we doing, yo? Where we going?
No, you came off exactly like that. Like, don't think that you
Nah,
were a little...
I didn't come off like this.
It was
Charel,
exactly like that.
man.
No, let me tell you, it was exactly like that. And I appreciated that because... No, let me tell you why.
It wasn't that harsh, though. It wasn't that harsh.
Y'all.
She exaggerating a little bit.
Y'all. I mean, those who know, they know. Like, those who know you...
Charel should have been an actor, you know what I'm saying? She could have won an Oscar awards.
Anyway, no, I'm so serious. It was that direct. Like, you were that direct. I think one day, things started to get a little bit serious between us, just like in our conversation, and you were like, okay, where's this going? Like, if we're gonna start talking about marriage,
I'm sure I said it a little bit more smoother and nicer and gentle than that. I'm sure
not
of
at
it.
all. Dale Skinner and smooth is not even in the same sentence. Like, those who know, y'all know. But no, I'm just gonna say it this way. I really appreciated you being like that because I knew what I wanted, right? And you asked me what I wanted, and I was just kind of like, I told you exactly what I wanted. But I appreciated that from you because there's a lot of times in my life where guys have tried to, you know,
String you along.
Yeah, either string me along or, hey, what is it that we're doing? Or not even come to the forefront exactly or address what's going on. And it's just kind of like, so after a couple times of hanging out or sleeping together or whatever, it's just kind of like, yeah, so what is this? What you mean, what is this? I mean, we chilling, we kicking it, we friends, or you like my little sister, or whatever term that they try to use. And I say that because, like, I look at some of the people who are posting like their conversations about them dating nowadays in 2020. And it's like...
It's scary, yo.
It's very scary. And I'm just like, the problem is no one's being direct.
And what's even more scary is that people letting people waste their time. That's even more scarier. Like, I can't control what you do or your intentions, but I can control whether or not I let you waste my time. That I can control.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, if it's kind of not, if things aren't adding up, we not about to wait and see, like, oh, let's just wait and see. I'm going to ask you. And if you cannot answer my question directly without playing games or, you know, oh, my phone died, let me call you back. Or, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, no. What you don't realize is that you're going to end up, let's say that happens and you guys end up dating for a couple years, you guys end up getting married. You're bringing those things into your marriage. You're bringing those games, and you're going to have to keep looking over your shoulder. You're going to have those insecurities. I mean, if we're talking about coming from divorced families, right? Because a lot of people come from divorced families or a co-parenting situation, right? Like, let's just get real. That's just the reality of a lot of our backgrounds. I mean, if it's not like the reality of your upbringing, praise God, you know? But for a lot of people, that's just the norm. It's a cultural norm, right? And so you're thinking about, okay, why would I desire to be married? Like, why would you, listening to us talk about this, why should I have hope in being married? And it's not because y'all watched our relationship vlog and we went on the trips and we did this and that. It's not that. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't be your reasoning to have hope in marriage for yourself. It should be because you believe that the Lord believes that for you.
And it's obtainable.
Yeah, that's obtainable. It's tangible. There's a lot of things in the Lord that are very tangible that, if I'm honest, without the Lord, I would have truly believed that that's not for somebody like me. Because A, that's what some people have told me after I told them that the Lord had given me a word. And then B, I didn't see that in my own life. I hadn't seen where it could have been tangible. And let me be honest, I said this to the Lord. I was like, look, is that all I have to look forward to? Is that, I might be with a good guy, I might not be, and it's just a coin toss? You know what I'm saying? Like, I may get, I may not get. And no, I can't control the outcome of, what Dale does in this marriage. No, I cannot. But what I can control and what I do have control over is my actions. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say it's interesting because you and I spent a couple hours the other week on the phone with somebody in our family, talking to them about these same things. Just like having to kind of prove yourself to somebody that you're with. Like, man, you ain't got to prove yourself to nobody that loves you. You know what I'm saying? You got to prove yourself to somebody that don't love you, that don't want to be with you. It's encouraging knowing where we come from, as far as individually, where we come from as a couple, and then where we're at now, which is still only in the beginning stages of our marriage. But it's encouraging that so many people close to us look up to us and look up to our marriage and appreciate what we do with the podcast. And I just feel like we just try to be transparent and try to be as honest as possible, and try to give a perspective at one from the Lord's perspective, even if we ain't saying what 1 John 2:3 says. And it's like, it's still the Lord. Like, the reality is the Lord. Like oftentimes, people kind of get taken back when someone doesn't throw out a Bible scripture or throw out like a verse, like, wow, Corinthians is like, but the reality though, my wife was talking about this just a few hours ago. I was like, people know the Bible in and out, but they don't understand the principles of the scriptures. The principles of the scriptures is what has to be lived out. You can know the Bible, but not understand how to live out the principles of the scriptures. With God and God's kingdom and his scriptures and his word, there's a reality that comes along with it. So knowing the word, good job. Where's the reality? Where's the principles? With our podcast, we try to give the principles and the reality of the Father and just the reality of his kingdom, the reality of God's kingdom, and the reality of the Lord and his lordship over your life is that he wants you to be married. He wants you to want these things. He wants you to want children. He wants you to want happiness and loving and cherishing relationships. He wants you to want that. It's obtainable, whether you come from divorce or whether you come from a single parent home. It's obtainable. I feel like a lot of us get discouraged because we don't realize that we may have to be the Abraham of our generation.
What does that mean to be the Abraham, Dale?
Abraham was the first of his family to follow Yeshua, follow the Lord, follow Yahweh. He was the first of his family who did that. But Abraham, or Abram, as some people, Bible scholars, Abram, he had to leave his home and his family. And sometimes I feel like God, like with me, I feel like God does that because some of us are so attached to our family and to our roots that God has to uproot us and take us somewhere else to show us another reality. So I feel like a lot of you guys listen to the podcast today, you actually may be the Abram or the Abraham of your generation, but be encouraged. It's interesting because, and I feel like, the Lord wants me to share this. My mother passed away in 2010. And at that time, my family was bickering and things over some of her belongings that they wanted of hers. I was very angry because for me, as her son, I'm like, this is a time where we should be putting my mother to rest, and peacefully and doing it honorably. But so to be arguing about someone who's dead's belongings, like, dude, I don't care. Take what you want. I don't care. At that time, the Lord said to me, because I was very angry, I was enraged, and the Lord said to me, I'm going to give you a holy generation. That's what he said to me. I was like, man, but so 2010, I get married 2017. So you can say almost a decade of the Lord telling me that, and really longer than that. Well, yeah, over a decade of that just not coming to pass. And 2017, it's like, 7 years.
It's 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. That's why I said almost a decade, 7 years. But my point being is that just be encouraged. You know what I'm saying? Anything that you want, that you desire from the Lord, you can obtain it and you will obtain it. Just be encouraged. Be encouraged.
Yeah, especially if he's giving you that word. I feel like that definitely resonates with me as well, because when a lot of people that I looked up to were telling me like, well, how do you know that you're going to be a wife? How you know that you even meant to get married? Not to say that they weren't valid in what they were saying.
But it wasn't.
Well, hold on. No, based on their perspective or their perception, they didn't know what the Lord exactly was walking me through. However, like had I just believed that off of what they said versus believing in what the Lord had told me, can I just say that I look up now at my family and who knew in 2015, 2014, that I would be so fulfilled with these people that I get to love on daily. I get to love on y'all. And 2015, it was just like me and my son kicking it, and I was just loving on him. I mean, I was cool with that too, but it was just like, who knew that the Lord would just bring more to my life had I not held fast to the word that he had given me and believed that. And I think a lot of times the Lord can give you all a word about your marriage and how it'll get better, or that you'll get married in the first place, but we just don't believe it.
Yeah.
We don't believe it. And I mean, but that just goes to show in a lot of different areas how we have unbelief in our life. The Lord could say that, you will be delivered from like drug addiction or abuse. And because we cannot see past right now, we can't see past our circumstances, we do not believe that. And I think with anything, you have to have belief, and nobody can give that to you. When the Lord shows you, it's like either you believe it or you don't. Can't nobody convince you to believe. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody hold that belief in your heart but you.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny because the other day, Charel, you and I were talking about having a conversation about how I got into a conversation with a guy recently, just about my faith, and he tried to convince me otherwise. But I was thinking about how over the past few years, a lot of African-American Christians have been converting to the Islamic faith. And when I thought about it, I was thinking like that happens because of unbelief. If I'm already kind of shaky in what I believe, it's easy for somebody to come over and persuade me. Hey, are you sure you love your husband? You sure? And then next thing you know, the rest is history, So it's like, just be assured and be confident in whatever the Lord is saying to you about relationships and marriage, regardless of the past that you may have witnessed, whether it was mom and dad, divorce, uncles and aunts, grandma and granddad. But, just be encouraged. Through and in spite of all of that, just be encouraged. So definitely thank you guys for listening to the podcast always about this love. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find our podcast anywhere where podcasts can be found, meaning listen to. And we're also on YouTube as well. Until next time, thank you for your support. Peace.